High in the valleys and passes of ancient South Asia, where mountains fold into plains and roads stretch toward distant horizons, a civilization emerged that did not belong to one world alone. Here ideas traveled as freely as merchants. Beliefs crossed borders without armies. Art absorbed influence without losing identity. This was Gandhara, a land shaped not by isolation, but by encounter. For centuries, Gandhara stood at the crossroads of civilizations, where South Asia, Central Asia, Persia, and the Greek world met, and where Buddhism found one of its most enduring visual voices. A civilization in time. The story of Gandhara begins around the 6th century BCE, when its fertile valleys and strategic position drew the attention of expanding empires. Under the Achaemenid Persians, Gandhara became part of a vast imperial network that stretched from the Mediterranean to the Indus. Administration, coinage, and long-distance connectivity laid early foundations for cultural exchange. Later, the region passed through the hands of the Mauryan Empire, reaching a transformative moment under Emperor Ashoka in the 3rd century BCE. It was during this period that Buddhism took deep root, not as a private faith, but as a public and intellectual tradition. In the centuries that followed, Indo-Greek kingdoms, Indo-Scythians, and ultimately the Kushan Empire reshaped Gandhara into one of the most cosmopolitan regions of the ancient world. From roughly the 1st century BCE to the 3rd century CE, Gandhara reached its cultural and artistic peak. The land between worlds. Gandhara occupied a landscape that naturally invited movement. Centered in what is today northern Pakistan and eastern Afghanistan, it encompassed the Peshawar Valley, the Swat Valley, and the ancient city of Taxila. Rivers flowed from mountain ranges, nourishing agriculture and settlements, while passes through the Hindu Kush connected the subcontinent to Central Asia. Caravans carrying silk, spices, metals, and manuscripts passed through these valleys. Along with goods came languages, philosophies, artistic traditions, and religious ideas. Gandhara was not a borderland. It was a meeting ground, cities of learning and stone. Among Gandhara's cities, Taxila stood apart, not merely as an urban center, but as a place of learning. Here, students gathered to study philosophy, medicine, politics, and religious thought. Teachers from different traditions debated ideas that shaped intellectual history far beyond the region. Across Gandhara, monasteries and stupas rose along hillsides and valleys. Built from stone rather than brick, they carried a sense of permanence, their surfaces carved with reliefs that told stories in motion, processions, teachings, journeys, and moments of awakening. Architecture reflected influence without imitation. Columns bore Hellenistic proportions. Decorative motifs echoed Greek and Persian aesthetics. Yet the spiritual core remained deeply rooted in South Asian thought. Life in a multicultural society, Gandhara was home to monks and merchants, scholars and sculptors, travelers and pilgrims. People dressed in garments that blended regional styles, flowing robes alongside tailored tunics. Languages overlapped. Coins bore inscriptions in Greek, Kharoshthi, and later Brahmi scripts. Markets bustled with exchange. Monasteries offered rest and learning. Roads carried not only trade, but conversation about ethics, metaphysics, and the nature of suffering. This was a society accustomed to difference, shaped by dialogue rather than dominance. The birth of a new artistic language. Gandhara's most enduring legacy lies in its art. For centuries, Buddhism had avoided depicting the Buddha in human form, relying instead on symbols, a footprint, an empty throne, a wheel. In Gandhara, this changed. Here, artists gave the Buddha a face. Carved in stone, the Buddha appears with calm, idealized features, wavy hair arranged in a top knot, and robes that fall in naturalistic folds reminiscent of Greek sculpture. The body reflects anatomical realism. The expression conveys inner stillness. This fusion of Hellenistic realism and Buddhist symbolism was revolutionary. It transformed religious art across Asia, shaping how the Buddha would be imagined from Central Asia to China, Korea, and Japan. Relief panels narrated entire lives: birth, renunciation, enlightenment, teaching and passing, turning stone into storytelling, trade, travel, and transmission. Gandhara thrived as a commercial and cultural hub. Merchants traveled from the Mediterranean world through Persia and Central Asia, passing into the Indian subcontinent. Chinese pilgrims journeyed westward in search of sacred texts and authentic teachings. Buddhist monks carried scriptures and ideas along these same routes, spreading Gandharan artistic styles and philosophical interpretations far beyond their homeland. Trade supported faith, faith guided travel. Together, they carried Gandhara's influence across continents. Belief, philosophy, and coexistence. While Buddhism flourished, Gandhara was never defined by a single belief system. Buddhist monasteries existed alongside Hindu practices, local traditions, and remnants of earlier Iranian and Greek religious ideas. This coexistence shaped a philosophical atmosphere open to synthesis rather than exclusion. Art and architecture reflect this diversity, mythological figures from multiple traditions appearing side by side, not in conflict but conversation. Historians tread carefully here. Much is known through material evidence, much remains interpretation. Gandhara reminds us that certainty has limits, and humility is part of scholarship. Decline without erasure. From the 4th century CE onward, Gandhara began to change. Political instability, invasions by new powers, and shifts in trade routes weakened the region's economic foundations. Over time, Buddhism declined locally as religious centers moved elsewhere. Yet Gandhara did not vanish. Its artistic language survived in distant lands. Its interpretation of the Buddha became universal. Its role as a cultural bridge continued long after its cities fell quiet. This was not an ending, but a transformation. Rediscovery and meaning. In the 19th and 20th centuries, archaeologists began uncovering Gandhara's buried monasteries, sculptures, and cities. Stone faces emerged from the earth, serene, weathered, timeless. What they revealed reshaped global understanding of Buddhist history and ancient art. Gandhara stands today as proof that civilizations do not need purity to be powerful. That influence grows through exchange. That identity can be layered, not lost. A legacy that endures. In a world often divided by difference, Gandhara offers another model. A civilization where cultures met without erasing one another, where faith traveled through art, not force, where learning crossed borders freely. Its legacy lives not only in museums and ruins, but in every image of the Buddha that carries both stillness and humanity. Gandhara reminds us that when worlds meet, something enduring can be born. Not a clash, but a convergence.